presented by our speaker. So it's my pleasure to introduce him. This is Dr. Gleb Sipursky, and Dr. Gleb was named the Office Whisperer by the New York Times for helping leaders overcome frustrations with hybrid work and generative AI. He serves as the CEO of the Future of Work consultancy Disaster Avoidance Experts. Dr. Gleb wrote 7 best-selling books. His most recent one is titled ChatGPT for Thought Leaders and Content Creators, Unlocking the Potential of Generative AI for Innovative and Effective Content Creation. And his earlier published book is called Returning to the Office and Leading Hybrid and Remote Teams. He has published over 650 articles in prominent venues, such as Harvard Business Review, Forbes, and Fortune. His cutting-edge thought leadership has been translated into Chinese, German, Russian, Korean, Polish, Spanish, Vietnamese, French, and other languages. Dr. Gleb's expertise comes from over 20 years of consulting and training. His clients include Fortune 500 companies ranging from Aflac to Xerox. And his expertise also comes from his academic background as a behavioral scientist. Dr. Gleb taught for 8 years as a lecturer at UNC Chapel Hill and 7 years as a professor at Ohio State. Dr. Gleb is a proud Ukrainian American and lives in Columbus, Ohio. In his free time, he spends abundant quality time with his wife to avoid his personal life turning into a disaster. And to help you take advantage of his groundbreaking expertise, MassSHRM has invited him today to share with us about mind over machine, overcoming resistance to generative AI integration. Now, please give a big round of a virtual applause to Dr. Gleb.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Monica. Really appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. So, we'll talk about the topic of overcoming resistance to generative AI integration. And I wanted to first start off with some logistics. So in terms of my slides, in order to make sure that you can see my slides, you will need to go into Zoom view at the top right. You'll see a small button that says view to the left of the minimize button, and then click down to full screen. That way you'll be able to see my slides fully. And my slides are going to be right next to me, so you can see them changing. And so you'll want to be able to see them fully. So please go ahead and do that. And I'll give co-hosting privileges to Monica in case somebody joins later and inadvertently doesn't mute themselves, so you can mute the Monica. All right. So now with the logistics out of the way, let's talk about the outline of today's talk. Aligning generative AI with your strategic goals in HR. The psychology of resistance to generative AI is going to be the next topic. And then some cognitive biases, some mistakes that we make as human beings that can inhibit generative AI adoption. And again, this is going to be not simply within HR, of course, it's going to be broadly within your company. So it will be talk about both those topics. Then some behavioral science strategies to overcome such resistance, best practices for generative AI adoption, and some case studies before talking about your generative AI adoption plan. So that's the outline of the presentation. That's what you can expect. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. So aligning AI with your goals in HR. AI is really different than other technology upgrades. It's very distinct because it's much more powerful. It's replacing intelligence, which other technology did not. It's just other technology is automation. AI is intelligence, very distinct from other technology, and especially generative AI, where it can generate content. So previous versions of AI before the launch of ChatGPT that were not generative, they were predictive. They were able to take information and predict, like, let's say, if someone has certain information on their resume, how well will they do as an employee based on current employees at your company? So it's kind of predictive functionality. Generative functionality is being able to generate text content, being able to engage with people. That is the generative AI functionality. It's very different, and people are much more worried about it because it has much more potential for replacing jobs. And so there's a lot more anxiety around generative AI. And so you need to think about how you will support your long-term strategic objectives in HR with this new and distinct and unique technology. So you want to focus on human decision making and using AI as support and clarification for human decision making. It can shortcut a lot of manual automated tasks. You've probably heard that before. It can provide decision support, and it can help address a number of mistakes that humans can make that AI will not make. And humans can catch mistakes that AI will make. So that's why it's a very good collaborator, co-pilot. So AI can really improve HR functions. So let's talk about core HR functions: talent acquisition, retention, and improvement. Those are core HR functions, and AI is great at those. It's great at employee engagement. So it can scan current employee engagement and improve it over time. Managing performance. It's a very effective tool for helping managers improve how they manage performance, taking it from a once annual activity that's really annoying and stressful for managers to a continuous performance management, maybe every week or so, that they can do very quickly and easily. Aligning HR with AI with HR is great for efficiency. It can improve fairness and employee experience. So usually you might not think about fairness because fairness is something that's talked about as something that AI harms. In reality, AI can be really good for fairness because it can catch issues of bias that people express. So failure to adopt AI is really problematic from a competitive advantage perspective. Let's talk about acquisition and retention of talent. AI is increasingly transforming how HR is attracting and retaining top talent. It's helping speed up hiring through automation of resume screening, shortlisting that helps reduce bias by focusing on skills and qualifications. So here's one way that it helps improve fairness. It helps better candidate matching with AI-driven tools because they can assess cultural fit and potential based on the person's LinkedIn profile, for example. And companies using AI in recruitment see definitely reduced hiring times and improved candidate satisfaction. Automatic resume screening is one example, reduces manual workload. Then you have chatbots for candidate engagement. So candidates can engage with chatbots that automatically ask them questions, get information, and provide them with information about their current situation and flow in the resume pool. Predictive hiring analytics are great. I mentioned them before. So it's the older version of AI, the predictive models, not the generative models, but they're still obviously very useful. Companies using AI-driven application tracking systems report hiring cycles that are 30 to 50% faster. So much, much faster hiring cycles and therefore much less effort. So what about career growth? Employees, of course, will stay longer with you if they see a clear career growth opportunities. So AI is great for helping HR identify personalized career paths based on employees' skills, interests, and performance data. AI-driven career development programs have reduced turnover rates by 20 to 30%. So great outcomes. What about retention? AI applications and retention are powered by internal mobility programs that match employees with new roles and a skills gap analysis that can identify training opportunities to keep employees much more engaged. And then you can also look at employee sentiment to detect early signs of dissatisfaction to intervene before they leave. Performance management. So I mentioned that before. Traditional performance management are infrequent, often ineffective, and sometimes biased. AI enables essentially real-time and data-driven feedback. What I tend to do with companies I help with implementing this performance management is do it every week, but you can have a real-time dashboard, and then you can check in every week. So continuous performance tracking essentially gathers rather than annual or semi-annual reviews, which recommend personalized skill development opportunities and allow managers to give timely and more constructive feedback. So organizations using AI-driven feedback report higher employee engagement and productivity by 20 to 40%. So very clear improvement. What about employee development? So you want to use AI to track employee specific career paths and skills gaps. And of course, you have internal information about that. So AI depends on having good data. So you really need to have good data in order to make good predictions. But once you have good data, you have employees. When I work with companies on this, we have employees fill out a profile of their specific career paths, skills that they want to learn, and they match that to the skill, to the career path inside the company and the skills needed. And that's a very good matching engine for employees to understand what they need to work on. And the AI tool can automatically feed them that information, what they need to learn. Predictive analytics forecast leadership potential, helping you build a succession pipeline. So that's very effective. And going on to employee learning, so this is our adaptive learning platforms. I mentioned about the skills gaps. So then you want to connect that to an adaptive learning platform where it can identify future leaders based on their performance trends and competencies and combine them with individualized training content. And that automated recommendations provide employees with training that fits their real needs. So companies that leverage AI-driven learning see 15 to 20% faster leadership development. So real increase in improvement. Okay, so that's part one. That's the benefits for HR. Now let's talk about why people resist. Resistance to AI really isn't about logic, just to be clear. It's driven overwhelmingly by how people feel, not how they think. So a challenge is addressing fears and psychological barriers before they become obstacles. So fear of the unknown and loss of control is huge. People have a lot of fear of change, especially when it threatens their ability to do things in the world, autonomy. Employees feel AI makes decisions beyond their control. So common fears include, will AI replace me? How do I stay relevant? And who controls the decisions that AI makes? And they lack trust in AI's capabilities and fairness. So employees doubt that AI has the ability to make fair and accurate decisions. They have concerns about bias in AI decision making, lack of transparency in AI-driven processes, over-reliance on AI reducing human judgment, less empathy, and loss of the human touch. Those are common concerns. And here we're going on to specific mental patterns that cause us to make bad decisions. So one is called the status quo bias, which is a tendency to prefer existing methods and resist change, even when there's a better alternative. So a psychological root is that people feel safer with what's familiar and they often fear uncertainty. So employees resist AI tools because they're comfortable with their current workflows and what they know. Status quo bias is a real fear because AI disrupts how we are familiar with ways of working. So creating resistance among employees. Employees may perceive AI as unnecessary or too complex, leading to a lot of resistance in using AI-driven tools. So organizations may, as a result, default to the way we've always done it, which delays AI integration. So HR teams within HR, I've seen this, may hesitate to use AI-powered recruitment tools because they feel that automated decisions will not be as personal and that they may make mistakes. Another cognitive bias is the empathy gap, where people struggle to predict how they and others will feel in the future. So, employers understand how their emotions change over time, and they struggle to estimate how others feel and how their emotions will change over time. Workers may think that AI will complicate their jobs, when reality could make their work much easier. And so it's hard to envision how AI improves efficiency, creativity, and decision making when there's just a cloud of words out there about AI until they experience it. So employees resist AI-driven performance evaluations because they assume it will be rigid and unfair. I've seen that happen with companies I was working with. So this is a problem. Another problem is functional fixedness. So people see functions, tools, or concepts in a limited, traditional, and fixed way. And that's not something you can do with AI. It's very much customized, and you need to customize it to each situation. And so they're limited. Let's say they use AI like Google. They would type in questions, and then you should not use AI like Google. It's not what it's meant to be used for, but people don't know how to use it well. So the psychological root is that people mentally categorize AI as a tech function rather than as a tool for all to use. So HR professionals, I've seen them assume AI is only useful for IT teams and not applicable to their work. And so HR teams may fail to see how AI can enhance hiring, training, and performance management. For example, an HR team dismisses AI-driven analytics because they think only data teams should handle predictive modeling. So that's a serious issue. But how do you address this resistance? Employees resist AI when it threatens autonomy, identity, or job security. Let's talk about how to address these using behavioral science. Behavioral science tools can nudge employees toward AI adoption without coercion, which is what we really want to see. They frame AI as an opportunity rather than a threat, which increases openness. So small interventions like incentives, narratives, and social proof can shift mindsets seriously. Nudges and incentives to encourage engagement. What are nudges? These are small changes in choice architecture. Choice architecture refers to how choices are shaped for us that influence behavior. So default AI usage options increase adoption without forcing change, so making it an easily available default. That frames AI adoption as a norm that reduces hesitation. You want to also have incentives like recognition, bonuses, career growth to encourage participation, even gamification to make engagement enjoyable. And I'll give you a case study later. What about identity? People adopt behaviors that align with their professional identity, how they think of themselves. So reframe AI as a tool that enhances expertise rather than replaces it to increase acceptance. Another related issue is status. Status-driven incentives encourage participation, such as AI certifications, or maybe exclusive access to new tools and promotions. They highlight respected early adopters, which creates social proof. Managers need to reinforce AI use as a sign of innovation and leadership for status. Then stories are important. Stories fundamentally shape how employees view AI. Fear-based stories spread through the grapevine increase resistance. Internal case studies of AI success is what builds positive associations. Personal testimonials, especially for employees who benefit from AI, boost credibility a lot. Using metaphors can reduce anxiety, like Copilot Kathy rather than coworker Colin. I've found that to be quite useful. Or claims letter assistant rather than claims letter writer, so an assistant. So you need to communicate AI's role for compelling and relatable stories. And here we're going to defaults. I mentioned defaults before, so let me go into that a little bit more in depth. People tend to stick with default options rather than actively opt in. So setting AI-powered tools as the default increases usage with minimal resistance. I don't recommend that as the first step, but once you pilot things and you see that they are working well, setting them as a default is a good idea. So require employees to opt out of using AI rather than opt in. That improves adoption rates. Pre-selecting AI-driven recommendations in HR platforms, as an example, can help normalize AI use. So defaults should be designed to encourage gradual AI integration without overwhelming users. On a related note, you want to run experiments, so see what works best. Approach it as an iterative process, not as a one-time initiative. Do A/B testing of different AI implementation strategies to help identify what will work best for you, and track engagement metrics to reveal what incentives and narratives are most effective. So piloting AI in small teams is great for feedback and adjustments before expanding. Okay, so what are the best practices then? So we talked a little bit about behavioral science. Let's talk about some best practices. Organizations should build a culture that encourages learning, adaptation, and innovation. So structurally for you as HR leaders, this is your skill, your expertise, building that culture that encourage learning, adaptation, and innovation. So your employees need support to trust, understand, and use AI effectively and ethically. So you should champion AI adoption and reinforce its strategic value as well as fairness and ethics. And you want to have a proactive and growth-oriented mindset at all levels. So communicate about the importance of AI and its long-term benefits. So clear communication about AI's role in impacting jobs is one key. Will you focus on augmenting jobs and not replacing them? Whenever I work with a company, that's always my early priority. I want to get a commitment from the company that to share with their employees that they will not be replacing any employees due to AI tools, that people, they might freeze hiring, but they will not replace people who, because they're using AI tools, for example. If you do replace jobs, and I try not to work with such companies, but occasionally companies I work with do end up that happens. But the only way that that happens is if employees really refuse to use AI effectively. So then those people who are replaced are those who don't learn how to use generative AI. Be honest and transparent in whatever situation you do. Commitment to AI. C-suite and HR leaders should integrate AI into strategic objectives, not treat it as an add-on. Leadership needs to model AI usage by incorporating AI tools into their workflows and regularly update teams on AI progress to keep employees engaged and informed. A culture of continuous learning is really helpful here. AI is evolving very rapidly. Employees need ongoing continuous education and have curiosity and experimentation as part of something you model to reduce AI anxiety and increase openness. So have employees be empowered to explore AI applications that are relevant to their roles and have a dedicated AI learning hub or resource center to provide easy access to AI insights and provide external training that will help build AI confidence. Employees need structured learning opportunities to develop AI fluency. Bringing in external trainers, I do plenty of these trainings, offers specialized expertise beyond your internal resources, and that helps increase adoption, like workshops and hands-on AI simulations, hackathons, builds. Encourage innovation experimentation with AI. AI adoption is great for in an environment that rewards experimentation. So having AI sandboxes helps employees test AI tools without fear of failure. Hackathons, AI innovation challenges are great for fostering creativity and collaboration. Encourage cross-departmental AI initiatives to accelerate discovery of new use cases and recognize AI-driven innovations for awards or incentives that build enthusiasm. Then, of course, you want to measure, have KPIs around AI. Track AI adoption with clear KPIs like usage rates and productivity gains. Have feedback loops to ensure AI tools meet the needs of employees. Have pulse surveys to gauge AI sentiment, identify areas for improvement. Have AI success stories to highlight and reinforce positive impact. And continuously refine AI strategies based on real world output. Have an external advisor to help you build, teach your people how to build these tools. These tools are mystical and magical when they're provided by an external. Oh, I'll give you a good example. So I had a meeting with an association on, actually, it was July 3rd. So it was an association with like 12,000 members, and it's something like 40 staff. And they had a chat bot that they got a vendor to build for them. And so the chatbot basically was trained in the internal association's professional records and research and so on, and it answered questions. So this was a technical, scientifically professional, like an analytical association, 12,000 professional, not a science, not like science, but like technical expertise. So it was providing answers based on their research reports database. And I asked them how much they were paying for it for per year. And they told me that, hey, they got this tool a couple of years ago and they're paying $50,000 a year. When I heard that, my jaw dropped. I have to say, that was a shockingly high number. If they build this tool themselves, it would take them, they can do it for like the actual cost for the tool would be something like $100-ish a month if they knew how to build it themselves. So no more than 1,200, maximum $1,500 a year. Oh, I can build this tool for them. I can not build, I can train them how to build this tool for like $5,000 for build this tool. And it would be just, and then after that, they would be paying like $1,500 a year for the AI platform to maintain it. So this is the difference between having your own team have control over it and having it be built, provided by an external vendor. I really don't recommend having an external vendor provide AI tools that can be built by using your team. You want to learn what kind of tools you can build using your team. And I'll show you a couple of tools that I built for companies using these methods. And you want to teach your team how to build them so that they have control over them. AI external expert can help provide unbiased guidance and best practices on how to teach your team how to build these tools. And then so you know when you really need somebody external to do something super complex. AI advisors can help assess organizational readiness and recommend tailored customized strategies. They can bridge the gap between technical implementation and workforce adoption. So know how to address that question. That's a big, big, difficult question. Advise leadership on effective AI decision making, and a third-party perspective helps navigate resistance and ensures AI initiatives align with business goals. Now, before I talk about a client case study, let me show you a couple of these tools so you know what I'm talking about. Let's see. All right, you should be able to see this tool. Okay, so Let's say your team, you've probably a number of you have used ChatGPT. And let's say you have an enterprise ChatGPT account. I'm sure a couple of you who have an enterprise GPT account. You can set up a custom GPT to, and like again, I can teach you how to do it pretty quickly, to do a lot of important activities. So let's see what this custom GPT can look like. And this is something I built just as a tool for a roofing company. So, what's this tool about? This is an assistant for Ohio roofing contractors to help deal with progressive insurance. So, when a roofing contractor has an issue, has a client, they need to decide, do they, let the client, let's say, has a claim, they have a windstorm, they have fire, they have something happen to the roof. They need to decide how to deal with this. Some companies don't even deal with insurance at all. They just tell the homeowner, we'll just build it, we'll just repair it for you, and you deal with insurance. But then they, of course, lose a lot of business because homeowners don't know how to deal with insurance well. And so I built this as a tool to help Ohio roofing contractors deal with progressive insurance specifically. So you can just build a specific tool. The reason I built it for progressive as opposed to anything else is because I've built other tools like Allstate and State Farm and so on. You need to build a separate tool for each individual insurance so that the AI doesn't get confused about the specific policies of each insurance. So how do you use this tool? You use this tool by uploading so it has certain information in the backend, which has some instructions, and I'll show you the instructions, and it has certain research about Ohio regulations and about progressive in particular. And so how it works is that you put in your insurance. So I'll just use my own personal insurance policy for ease and confidentiality. Don't want to reveal any information about clients. Then you say something like, and so you're speaking from the perspective of the insurer. So this is the insurer would have this on their phone or in their email on their, if they bring a laptop with them to meet with a customer. And the customer would provide them in advance or at the moment with a PDF of their insurance. And then the insurer, then the roofer would type in information about the claim. Let's say they had fireworks. Okay, so this is the first part of information that is provided. So right now you could see it's reading documents. That's in the back end. You could see its thought process of what is going on, what it's thinking. So again, here's its thought process, so you could see if it's missing anything. Okay, so then it gives you some information. So the customer keeps full replacement cost rights for this fire loss. Great. So that's going to be saving a lot of money for the customer if we can win the battle with insurance. Immediate next steps. Tarp or board up, capture data stamped photos, notify the carrier, ask the adjuster to confirm that the wind hail HCV schedule does not apply. Full slope photos, Okay, so let's give some missing information. Roof type and age. My roof is about 15 years old. So I forget the type. 2 layers of shingles. Some smoke damage. And here are just a few shots of firework damaged roofs I pulled from the internet. So now it sees that it's asphalt shingles based on the damage, based on the photos. So you could see that it does photo recognition. So I don't need to put in all the information, just need to put in some photos. It will recognize that. Yep. So fire loss will stay on full RCV valuation, which is really important. That only means a 5,000 deductible instead of a 54,000 deductible. Great. So repair legally triggers a full tear-off, age 15 years, but it applies only to wind and fire loss. Okay, so here you go. Oh, this is fine. This is fine. Now it's ready to generate strategy. And here's the payoff. So you saw that took like about, what, 4 minutes? So here's the roofer is interacting in this time with the customer and asking these questions, putting it into their phone or into their laptop. That's, they're standing outside looking at the roof, or they're sitting at the kitchen counter. Now they typed in generate strategy, and of course, there's a disclaimer. Okay, so coverage snapshot. Again, you could see how long it thought. Fireworks. You want to confirm the event, confirms the event is insurable. Deductible is $5,000. Roof is paid at full replacement value. Scorched shingles can be dismissed as cosmetic, and this is what it got from the photos. So 2-layer rule in Ohio residential code forbids adding a third layer. And so here is going to be really important because roofers, of course, would want to have full tear off. They make much more money in a full tear off than rather than adding a third layer. And so this bot is meant to help them provide justification for that. Matching requires uniform appearance. So if a adjuster proposes patching, that won't work because it won't be a uniform appearance. Okay, so here are kitchen table talking points for the roofer salesperson who is there with the customer. So you see, we'll file the claim, fireworks count as fire, your roof has 2 layers, full tear off non-negotiable, expect the desk adjuster to ask for receipts and photos, we'll supply that, we'll escalate if progressive stalls. Here's a step-by-step timeline that we can go through. Here are anticipated roof adjuster objectives and objections and rebuttals. So objection, patch the scorched tabs, then photos of 2 shingle layers, get all of this stuff. Documentation checklist, all of the documentation that the roofer will need. Escalation paths. And let's say I don't want to type up all of these documents myself, documentation checklist. I want it to give me the documents. So again, you could see it's thinking, which is quite helpful because then you could see if it's making any mistakes. Okay, so now it's providing the full documents that the roofer can use and that the roofer can provide to the customer to use. So it's providing this information. It's providing mitigation photo log sheet, giving all that information, valuation checklist, estimate cover letter, adjuster meeting checklist, 21-day decision demand letter, 45-day status follow-up letter, supervision escalation letter, notice of appraisal and invocation, ODI compliance draft, litigation hold, final claim settlement. So this is the kind of information that you can get from this tool. And just to show you the back end, the things that it has is strategic guide to winning insurance, the battle with insurance, which I prepared based on some research, and specifically on Progressive. And this was in Ohio, and then specifically on Progressive, a research guide. And then it gives instructions in the back end. So creating knowledge and citation rules, required user input, output when user types in, documentation checklist, the style, the interaction guardrails, and so on. And so I hope you can see why this is such a powerful tool, that it helps you saw from the back end that what it required to build. Those were the only things that it was required to build. You give instructions and you give two research reports, and you can use the AI to put together the research reports, which I did. So that's very easy to teach your team to do. There's specific knowledge that you need to how to write the prompt, and I can easily train on that. And I can train teams on how to build prompts. I train teams on how to provide the knowledge. But after that, once you are trained on this stuff, you can build as many of these tools as you want. I mean, think about how useful it would be for you if you can build any of the tools that you want for your HR function. So that's a case study that I want to show you of an actual tool that's used, that's actually quite helpful already. And so think about all the plenty of tools that you can build, that others can build in your company if you provide them with these resources. Now I'll give you a client case study just to go through the details and implementations of a national insurance company I worked with. They had a challenge, and this is an HR case study. So this was a sales case study. This is a challenge of high volume of job applicants. Manual screening was not great. So we had an AI-driven applicant tracking and assessment system. The results were that they reduced time to hire by 40% through automated resume screening, increasing diversity by minimizing human bias in candidate shortlisting, improved candidate experience with AI-powered chatbots, which again, you can use the same methodology that I just showed you to develop, providing instant responses. So AI is great for streamlining recruitment and maintaining fairness and engagement. For a regional accounting firm, employees struggled to keep with pace with evolving skill challenges, so we had an AI-powered learning management system with personalized recommendations. Again, easy to build stuff. Results were that there was a 30% increase in training completion rates due to AI-driven content personalization. We identified skills gap and provided customized development paths for employees. We boosted retention as employees saw clear career growth pathways. So the AI enhanced continuous learning by having tailored and adaptive training. So this is the kind of capabilities that you can see that these are the kinds of benefits that you can gain from these outcomes, from using AI effectively. And this is something I really want you to think about as you will be learning and thinking about how you can use AI effectively. So for key takeaways and next steps, you want to remember that the resistance to AI is psychological, not just technical. You want to address biases proactively using behavioral science, align AI initiatives with HR strategic goals, foster a culture of learning and collaboration, develop a clear roadmap for AI adoption. Now it's up to you. What is one action you'll do differently as a result of this talk? I want you to think about that. For additional resources, for everyone who's in this call, send them who registered, I'll send them to you automatically by email. If you're watching this as a recording, go to tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT, tinyurl.com/DAE event to get the
Hi, Kim.
resources from this presentation.
Good. How are you?
Okay, so make sure to keep your mute on. Thank you. So you'll get a link to the slides and a copy of my best-selling book, ChatGPT for Thought Leaders and Content Creators. And I'll be happy to have a free coaching meeting to integrate these strategies into your work. As we talked about, there's a lot of things that you can learn how to do yourself without needing any sophisticated outside development tools. It's just a matter of learning. So again, to get these resources, if you didn't register, if you're watching this as a recording, go to tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT. That's going to be the link under my name, tinyurl.com/DAEEVENT, tinyurl.com/DAE event. All right, everyone. At this stage, I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gleb. This is Monica again. I did have a couple of questions that came up during some things you were mentioning. First one is when you talked about best practice being using cohort groups like an A/B testing model to roll out certain AI usage in our course of business. You said, I guess I was curious, like how performance management is a big one. I think a lot of folks are starting to use generative AI, predictive AI for a lot of the onboarding, offboarding processes in our HR roles. But in terms of performance management, how have you seen that work? Have you used, you've introduced, or it's about getting buy-in from a small group of employees and people managers before rolling out, introducing AI into a greater performance management process?
Yeah, definitely want to pilot it. So piloting is going to be really important. And once you are, and as part of the pilot, you'll want to do A/B testing, meaning you'll want to have some people who have one feature. If you're not sure about the feature of the performance management, like how often you want to do it or how you want to display the dashboard, you'll want to do A/B testing. For one group, have one model or one aspect of the model. For another group, have another aspect of the model. It's often going to be or if you want to decide how much you want to spend, let's say you're deciding which model to use of AI. If you use something like O3, it'll be more expensive, but it'll give you better results. If you use just using OpenAI since I talked about them. If you're going to use O4, it's going to be less expensive, but gives you worse results because it has less thinking time. So you want to think about, okay, there are going to be certain cases where it's going to be worthwhile to use a more expensive model, and certain cases where it's not. And same thing for all the other, like let's say for Claude, Anthropic, you want to use the Opus model or the Sonnet model. Both of them have like trade-offs, and you'll want to think about what trade-offs to use. So for one lever you can pull is expense on the models. Another is the kind of length of the answer that you provide to in the responses and so on. So you'll want to compare different things and see what your team likes. The important thing about this is that you really want to give control to the team members. So I try to, whenever I work with companies, to have a lot of engagement from the people who are using the tool. ideally have them be involved in the building process. So when, let's say I was working with the insurance company and we're working on a claims letter. I mean, I can just show this to you, I guess. Let's see. Pilot. Okay, you should be able to see my screen.
Mhm.
Yes. So on this tool, so this tool helps, let's just type, it'll be self-explanatory. It helps determine, so this is a company tool that I'm currently working with. It helps with retrieving, summarizing, and analyzing insurance policy guidelines. And so there are certain policy guidelines within it, and it handles either them individually or it handles multiple policies. So I'm going to type in scenario. Could do the same thing. Let's say that they have a lot of hurricanes. So this is North Carolina. Oh, let's see. And so I give it a scenario. And then what it does is it analyzes the scenario. I don't give it time to analyze, but to explain, what we did was I built the initial one, and then I gave it over to the claims adjusters to work on and tweak. So I built the initial version and then they worked on tweaking it and improving it over time, and that gave them ownership of it. So the initial version was just kind of like a rough wireframe, and the revised version was much stronger and better. So let's see what this scenario summary says. The peril hurricane damaged roof, discovered this, mold discovered, and related. So here it determines various things. Conditionally supported, it gives you the quote from the insurance policy and gives you a link to the insurance policy so that you can confirm. Conditional coverage of tree removal. So it gives you the quote from it and gives you another insurance policy. Mold determined not covered mold because it's not a result of the direct peril of a peril insured against, which was not the hurricane. So the roof damage covered, tree removal covered, supporting clause, mold damage not covered, exclusion analysis, mold damage, special analysis, potential subrogation opportunity. Subrogation is when an insurer can go after a third party that caused the loss directly or indirectly. And so here, it's not something I know about, but this is something that obviously claims adjusters can add because they know. So subrogation opportunity, basis for pursuing a third party, the neighbor's tree caused the damage, and then a roof fortification opportunity because they have a special thing called a fortified roof that they provide some special funding for. And so you could see here all the policies that it cited. And the crucial thing about it is that the people were deeply involved in, after I did the initial build, they were deeply involved in improving it, tweaking it, and making it better over time. And right now I'm working with them, but the next stage in the process will be the next bot that they build will be built by themselves from the early onward, and then I will work on with them to improve it over time. I'll look at the back end and I'll say, okay, here are some ways we can make it better, and I'll coach them and guide them, but they will build it themselves. And then the third bot will be even more built by themselves. So there's a lot more control and power and buy-in when the people are involved in the process. So with the performance management, it's the same idea. You want it to be rolled out to the managers and to extended possible to employees, you want them to be involved in the process of developing the performance management tool and tweaking it to your needs.
Thank you, yeah, for that. Anybody else have questions in the audience? There's one more I could think to ask, but don't want to hog the mic. So maybe what I'll do is I'll take over the screen, Dr. Gleb, and I will give out the continuing education credits. But then as doing so, I will also ask you my other question.
Sure.
So here we are, folks. Here are your today's webinar does qualify for 1 hour of credit with both SHRM and HCRI. So please take note if you are actively recertifying and keeping up with your PD credits. So Dr. Gleb, my last question was having to do with something else you had touched upon, and it was that C-suite and HR leaders should incorporate AI into business strategies. Now, I wondered if you could give a quick example of an add-on approach versus an integrative approach.
So an integrated approach so an add-on approach would be essentially looking for an outside vendor and like buying a standardized tool. An integrated approach would be the leadership, and I've worked with a number of leadership teams on this for their, let's say, strategic planning, to build a tool that serves their needs from the internally, to look at what are your actual needs, how do you want to customize this tool, and then the leadership team has a lot more ownership and buy-in and investment into using this tool rather than they're empowered and they have ownership over it, rather than having a tool that a third party outside vendor provided. They're like, well, okay, we can use it sometimes. So when you have control and the nice thing is they can always change this tool. That's a big benefit. When you build it yourself, you have a lot more ability and flexibility to change this tool to adapt to your evolving needs. So I find that this is a much better tool in terms of leadership investment into AI at that strategic level.
Mm-hmm. Embracing an integrative approach when possible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, well, thank you. I think we are up at time now. So, folks, you do have contact info for Dr. Gleb and us here at MassSHRM. If you have any follow-up questions, please do reach out. But we thank everybody for attending today, and certainly thank you, Dr. Gleb, for your time. And happy AI generating. It's here, that's for sure. A very timely topic. So thank you again for talking with us.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome, Lisa and Dave.